guys, thanks so much for joining us. Today's conversation is a roundtable around listings. So you are the top listing agents throughout our first family of companies currently, and we wanted to talk, discuss, and share what's going on and how you guys are doing it. So how are you doing it, Patty? We'll start with you.
So I've been actually reaching out to my old clients and seeing if they know anybody or if they have any family or friends or anyone that's interested in, selling real estate. And most recently, I've had a couple calls from people that have been online looking for a realtor, and they've looked at my Google review and have called me from that as well.
Oh, that's great.
So I've been pretty lucky.
Joan, how about you?
Yeah, so same thing with past clients. I actually use the KV Core as my entrance when I make a phone call and say, listen, I have a new database. I just want to bring everything up to date. And then people will talk to you and tell you anything. And say, don't forget, this is the time. There's not a lot of listing. My neighbor was talking about selling. So I used KV Core as sort of my intro, and then it just goes from there.
Jane, how about you?
I'm very guilty in the past. I never really had any system. I only answer the call whoever calls me. But last couple of years, the inventory is a little tight. So I start to go back to my phone and my old notebook. And if I had anyone, I haven't talked to for a while, I'll first of all to make sure the house hasn't sold, and I give them a call, just a chat. So I have to, so get one or two kind of interested, but it's still worth it to still be relevant and in their life.
Yeah, top of mind. Dennis, what are you doing?
Well, when you're ready to sell that old notebook, let's talk about it. Probably some good stuff in there if I had to guess, right? What's working for me recently, I think majority of the time when I get most of my listing is strictly my close sphere. Been doing this a long time, so most of my listing sites come from my past clients. I try to maintain that relationship after the close, follow up with them, keep up with them. So I would say if I had to look at my pipeline recently, 75% of them have come from referrals from my sphere of influence. I would say a good portion of them are from my past clients. Yeah.
How has that changed this year as compared to other years, if at all?
I don't think it has changed for me personally. I've been pretty consistent in my business where most of my referrals traditionally come from my sphere. And then I've just tried to layer on some additional buckets to add to that, right? So we had a listing recently where we doubled down on a 4-7 by owner and took that opportunity. I noticed that it was for sale in an area that I'm very familiar with. I noticed the price was significantly under what the market value would be. So it was actually an easier conversation rather than the opposite with most 4-7 owners, which is trying to get them down the price. So that was great. We were one of the first ones to call, made a unique experience for the seller, and more importantly, been able to list that property. And he made over $100,000 of what he was previously going to sell for, which was really cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Jean, how have you changed your business this year, if at all?
I haven't changed much, but just go back to the notebook and call a few people. That's only changed. Same with you, Dennis. Majority of my client is from past client and referral, almost 95%. So a lot of people say you do so much advertising, but the income stream from advertising is less than 5%. Mm-hmm. It's just like keep you relevant, keep you branding, build the brand. So that's about it. But to be honest, I haven't changed much at all, which I should. I'm looking into this KV Core, how that going to work. And I think in the summer now, it's like the listing is really quiet. Like now, I don't represent buyer much at all. Like this year, so far, 0 buyer. Last year, maybe 1 or 2, just old client, but majority of these things, but there's nothing much out there. So I'm thinking, I don't know, you guys probably have, especially Joan, talk about a KV Core. I'm thinking about maybe there's any app we can do, like when you come to the open house, right? If you can sign in from KV Core, if I buy a lot of iPad, I don't know how to use.
That's something that we talked about was really taking that technology and going a little bit deeper and setting up one-on-one. So that's something that we plan on doing. But there actually is a KV Core app, and it digitally they scan it, and it drops right into your database, and it even sets them on an automatic touch campaign.
For
Yeah.
me, the original thought is not on the, I didn't, that was obviously really the benefit, but my original thought was very original because a lot of time you have open house, right? And then the people come and say, can you send me seller disclosure? Can you send me the listing? Can you send me floor plan, right? And we ask, you have an agent? They say, yes. I mean, it's very, sometimes you say, why don't you ask your agent download? But why you want them to be upset with you? You know, I mean, otherwise, you know, it's really, I specialize in East Brunswick. All these people going to be future owner in East Brunswick. They say, remember that nasty woman? She told me to go back to my listing agent, a buyer agent. But to be honest, I cannot afford to hire another admin just full out the open house, make everybody happy while your agent doing nothing, right? So I thought if I had a KB Core, I spoke to Paul in our office. He said, in KB Core, somehow you can load it, this information.
Yeah.
I just click a button and say, well, I don't care you have agent or not. I mean, would you like, you say, why do I have to sign in? Because I can give you a seller disclosure. And if you sign in, we click button, you have it. So we go home, forget about you. If you want, you can contact us. At least you'll be happy.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
You
Now
can
because-
actually set it on the automated campaign that it drops into also.
That's a 2 step ahead of me. At least
When
I
it
saw
drops.
this. So that's my original thought. Because after open house, people always ask you these things, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's true.
It's true.
We had a very heated conversation
Yes.
about open houses the other morning on the 8:30 call.
Really?
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
It was, well, you know, for me, I came away from it good information, but unsettled because it's always hard when it's something that was told to you, you know, and trained, you know. And so then it's like, well, that's not true.
And I think it's years of experience, so you're going by what you've learned, you know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you're thinking you need to implement it moving forward because that's just what you know.
And I kind of, and Stephanie and I both went over back and forth, and she went back through the notes, and it even made me a little crazier. But it's okay, because I said, okay, I'm done with that, and not doing that, you know, with Carl now, and Carl said that, and Michelle said, and this is what we're doing. But business-wise, I feel like the open houses, I always did very well at open houses, but now my husband, he has been doing the open houses. He was so successful that my previous broker asked if he would come in and talk to people because he didn't necessarily sell that house, but more than 50% of the time, the people that went through would call him and say, we met you at 123 Main Street. Would you work with us?
Yeah.
You know, and we have a house that I told him, I said, you're really making me look bad.
I love it.
You know, I did open houses for 30 years and didn't have the success that you have.
That's funny.
But I think open houses are going to be important. We did one last week, which was very successful. But again, you don't want to alienate anyone that comes through the open house. And I find that generally people do want to talk and they want to tell. Now, Dennis went to take the signs down. And he was gone, and he was gone, and he was gone. So I was texting him. I'm like, where are you? And he said, well, the guys in the clubhouse invited me in, and we're chatting. And he said a couple of them asked for my card. So you really don't know where the business is coming from, but you have to be open
Be out
to
there.
it. Yeah, you have to be out there. And just like you guys, I used Buffini for years, and my January numbers were 84% personal referral. But, you know, that's great, but everybody, you have to go the next step. You have to get in front of people. So back to doing client appreciation and, you know, events. And I think that's exciting because I hear it every single time we do something and they'll say, oh, my friends at work said, well, why, are you buying a house? No, she sold me my house 11 years ago.
Oh, that's great. Client appreciation events are really huge
they-
right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing them for 20 years. I missed them during COVID, I have to say, even I missed them. And I try to do 6 a year.
That's something I
Wow.
love about what
What
Carl
do you
does.
do about what?
Well, we do one St. Patrick's Day at an Irish pub.
Oh,
And we do one at it's like a nursery in Mercer County, but it has all kinds of things for the kids. So they come in their costumes, and we have food, and we have music, and we have face painting. And then we do one at a winery. And then there's a local brewery that we do one. You can have like 20-something people That's, and I go by the ages of the clients, right, that it works.
That's
And
true.
we're doing now the one with the ice cream truck.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we
it's
love that
been
one.
very, it's ice cream emergency. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you look on Facebook, it is incredible. It's a vehicle that has been turned into an ice cream shop.
Oh, that's
So
great.
the clients
Sounds so
and the
cute.
music is going on, and the clients walk in and they have the scoops and the sprinkles and the toppings and this and that, and we set some tables and chairs up, and it becomes a social. It absolutely is an ice cream social, and that one is the best value, I believe. I mean, obviously the brewery is very inexpensive, and we can bring in our own food, which we do, and then we have the photos with Santa.
Which is a huge
A
event.
huge event.
So that's what I think is unique about our family of companies is that we try to do something that you can invite the outside, your sphere in if you don't have, or if the agents don't have the capital to invest themselves right now.
Yeah.
So I want to shift a little bit. I'm going to roll back around the table to Patty, and I'm just going to say, traditionally you do about how many units a year? Over 100, would you say?
Over 100.
And you would say the last couple of years, what percent do you know, if you had to guess, were listing versus buy side?
I would say in the last few years it's changed. Listings been about 68% versus buyers, which is about 32%.
So right now, how many listings are you currently carrying? Do you know?
Currently carrying 10 listings. I have 2 more going in today, and then I also do rentals if that's my past clients if they call me.
So I happen to be in the office down in L'Oreal, which is where Patty's out of, and I noticed all this listing paperwork on her desk. And I noticed that it's real paperwork and that it's signed. Can you just talk about what you do on those appointments that brings you back with that signed listing?
Okay, so I always show up with paper because I feel like people like to read it in front of you and ask questions. I know everyone says computer. That's great. If you're in another state, I'll send it to you in an email, and I'll send it to you ahead of time in an email as well. But I always bring paper so we can go over everything. So if you have any questions, we can take care of everything right there. And then I think I'm pretty forward about it. I always just say to them, listen, this is the best value, this is the best price, this is the best time. Give me your input and let me think of what number are you thinking about so that we can come to a happy medium before I leave the table. So we usually discuss that, we get everything done, and the remarks at the end, I always put if they change their mind, I'll withdraw whatever they may need, whether it be just some of the photos or the verbiage or whatever it is, or if they change their mind, they don't want to sell a house, that's absolutely fine too. I'm not going to make them sell their house. So they feel comfortable and they feel secure and they realize that I actually have their true value and investment, and I'm working for them. I'm concerned. I want to make sure everything works great for them. And I usually leave every appointment with it signed. I just do. I just feel like I just want them to know that if I leave tomorrow and God forbid they have a life-changing event and they're not going to move, I'm not going to pressure them. I'm going to be the girl you're going to call. I'm going to come over. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to figure out what the best solution is moving forward.
So Dennis, I know traditionally you did not do that. How has your business shifted over the last year as far as managing the listing appointment?
That's a good question. I would say my approach previously was slightly different. I would go on the appointment first, build rapport with the client, especially depending on the referral source. Sometimes you know the person, so it's just like an open casual conversation, but a lot of times you don't. So I was big on rapport, developing, working that relationship, would always go over the numbers with them. Typically wouldn't go over the numbers till the following day. So the whole purpose of me going out initially was just as a consultation to see the house, see what it looked like, and then I would have a follow-up most of the time either back at their property or invite them back into the office. I had recently switched that approach up because a lot of things happen between meeting on a Monday and trying to get them to come back on a Friday, whether they're interviewing other agents, life events, etc. So I do believe it is best practice. If you go to the listing appointment, I was always prepared. I knew the numbers, I knew the value, etc. To have that conversation, similar to Patty, right? So, dear Mr. Seller, like, yeah, I totally agree. This is where I came up with based off what sold recently. Here's my marketing services, etc. If we agree on a number today, would you be willing to commit, to moving forward? And 9 out of 10 times, it's a yes.
Yeah.
I think that certainly will help a lot of the agents with their closing ratios, rather than trying to do commonly known as like a two-step. Just because of the fact, like, listen, most sellers want to be done with this. Like, they don't want to stress out.
Right.
In their perfect world, as long as the numbers make sense and the marketing and what you're delivering adds up to what they expect, they want to just get the ball moving forward.
Jane, do you have a similar approach? How do you handle that part?
I rarely have a two-step approach all my career. So pretty much my style is very, it's not really a style. So you call me, I go to your house, I just sit there, we will chat. We'll just chat. And then because I focus on East Brunswick more rather than do 5 towns, right? If during that chat, any house you mention, I'll give you a background story for it. So I just truly know every house, almost every house on the market. So mainly just one shot. And sometimes some seller want to interview 13 agents, go 5 rounds for 300,000 houses. It happened to me. And after 3 rounds, you win. But I only go back if they tell me so. The interview a few rounds like a typical corporate interview.
How do
right?
you get the paperwork signed there?
Well, once again, I always bring the paperwork with me. Nothing on the paperwork. I always tell them, look, I can't assume you just hire me, right? I'm sure you have other great agent to consider. Here's the paperwork. Doesn't matter who you hire, which company you hire. They use the same Central Jersey MLS form. I give it to you. Any question, let me know. Once you're ready, let me know. We're going to send for you e-sign. So we got everything filled out. Don't worry about filling them in. We'll do that. We just send you the e-sign. If you want me to come back to sign in person, please let me know. So I normally come back. I never go back just sign the paperwork. I always go back when we take the photo day. So I always sign after photo day, so the people don't think the pressure. And they said, don't you have to sign something before photo day? I said, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So it's okay. We're engaged. So we're engaged. So I hope for the wedding day, but I'm not going anywhere. At the end of the day, if you change your mind, it's just that day, the cost. I'm happy to bear it. So
That's great. Joan?
Well, for me, I always did the two-step. But in the last 12 to 13 months, that's cost me some listings. Because while you're, getting back to them and they're going to e-sign it, the neighbor's cousin's uncle's brother has a license and, or come over and they're, I felt I really had to give it to them because they're such a good friend. So I just started the last few months going with paperwork. And I don't have it filled out, but I do go with the paperwork. And I feel like that's a step that you almost have to take in this market. I really think so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Only because exactly what you said, next door neighbors, the cousin, the brother, someone's a realtor. A lot of times they'll call me up too and say, I know that we just signed that and I didn't realize that my cousin is a real estate agent. And I'll be like, okay, have your cousin call me. And I'll talk to the cousin and we'll figure out something for the cousin so that the cousin feels like they're involved, and we'll give them some type of compensation, whatever it may be.
Well,
And then everybody wins at the end. I don't want anyone to feel like, they were slighted or didn't get the chance and the opportunity.
Well, I had 3, maybe 4 times last year, which was just made me crazy. But I went, it's a small community, my township is small, and that because I went and a neighbor saw me, they went and knocked on the door and they said, I saw Joan George was here. Are you thinking of putting your house on the market? Because my friend is really looking for a house. And they sold it themselves. Because some people have asked me over the years, why don't I have the name on that? And I'm like, I don't want to, let everybody know. But
So
in my
that's
town,
funny
they
that you
knew.
mentioned that because our Monmouth Ocean MLS has a hold status. Do you have a hold status?
No.
So they allow you, and I think that it's something the board just put in because that was happening. So agents were they were signing listing agreements, let's say for June 1st, and it's May 15th. And the neighbor sees it, or another agent stops by and hears it, knocks on the door, and they sell it out from underneath the listing agent. So what Monmouth, Ocean, MLS, if you guys participate in that, they allow you a hold status for 30 days. It doesn't have to be a picture. You put it in when you sign, and it protects you from anyone else
Interesting.
coming during that 30-day period because you're technically under contract or honored by the listing agreement. And I think that that's why we talk about boards so much. And I know we're not all involved the way that we probably should, but this is the kind of stuff that they really facilitate for us. So when we started and we sat down, we talked about how many listings we were carrying. I think the reason why we're having this conversation is because we're all familiar with the numbers in the market. And what I hear is that the market's adjusted and that we've all adjusted our business. Do you think that you're not carrying as many listings as you traditionally would because they're selling faster?
No.
What do you think it is?
I mean, for me, the move-up buyers are not there. I mean, go to Lowe's or Home Depot or any of those places. They're filled with people getting the things to upgrade their house because they're staying. And I think the other piece that we missed is that how many people refinanced at under 3%.
Yeah.
And that's got them like, why would I go and spend 6.75? I had this conversation last week with somebody and say, yes, but this is not the house of your dreams. Mm-hmm. You might be missing out on that. And now the equity is there. It's by far going to erase that number.
So are you still seeing the interest rates affect agents that way? Because I think it's like, and I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but I think it's like 14% of homeowners refinanced and have like below that 3.5 interest rate. So what about the other 80% or 70% or 60%, whatever it might be? Do you think that that's holding homeowners in, or do you think it's the fact that they can't find their forever house or their dream house? Which one do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of both because I mean, when I did my last video and I did the stats, even I was like, oh my God. I mean, Pennington Borough, 0 houses on the market. Wow. Pennington and Hopewell, 7. Hamilton Township should have somewhere around 450 at this time of the year, had 37, and Ewing Township had 16. So I think I said to you, Michelle, earlier, I'm not getting anybody saying to me, what's the interest rate? So you know what they're saying? Is there anything for me to see?
Yeah.
So the dialogue has completely changed.
Right.
Nobody cares, and because there was a point in my career when I would say when the interest rate was 8 and 9, say, listen, when I started, it was 18%.
Right.
So 8 and 9 is good, right? And we
Yeah.
laugh about it. But I don't have anybody posing that question. I don't have anybody saying, what's the interest rate? That happened for, I don't know, what do you guys think, 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks when the interest went?
When
After that,
June last year.
it went
June
away.
last year.
And then again, what is the question? The question is there anything for me to see?
So how are you guys overcoming that? Jane, how are you overcoming? I would put my house on the market today. Get it's a great time to sell, but there's nothing out there. How are you overcoming that objection for them?
I think we really can't because we have to put our client first. If it's really not in their best interest to do anything, just like Joan said, right? Why you want to give up 3, 2.5 and go for 7? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, there's not much available. Why you want to pay more price? Because traditionally, the interest rate go up, the price go down, right? Now you have both up there. Why they have to sell? I mean, I put myself, before I convince anybody, right? Always put myself in that person's shoe. If I won't do it, I wouldn't waste my time, their time to convince them. If I said, yes, I would do it, I will tell them why. And in most cases, they agree with me, right? And today's market, the most that people want to buy or sell is they have a need. For example, they divorced.
They're
The
divorcing,
court
a death in
sent
the
out the
family.
paper.
Yeah,
You have to sell. Or
Not
the
you,
kids
though.
are 4 or 5 years old, you
Not
need to go to
me.
school.
Right.
So you pay private. I mean, I just had a family, right? And they have 3 kids in Catholic school.
Wow.
And I said in East Brunswick, so I said, oh, you guys are Catholic. I'm Catholic too. Because when you introduced me by my past client, I thought they are Christian, but I said, I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
She said, no. I said, why you send your kids to St. Barnes? He said, well, because I live in South River, that's nearby, so we want kids to get a better education. I said, do you know if you move in East Brunswick, you don't have to pay anything. And that's how I convinced them put their house on the market. But they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anything in East Brunswick. That's why their friend introduced them to me, because we couldn't find anything. So at the end, I convinced them rent. I said, even though you pay $3,000 a month, ridiculous. I said, I understand ridiculous. How much your kids' tuition fee?
Tuition fee.
So at the end, she said, oh, that's a good math. So we put out there a South River house on the market. First of all, I told them you have to find a place first, otherwise you're not gonna make it. I don't want you to live in the Hilton Hotel in East Brunswick. The school not gonna take you because you're in a hotel. So that was a joke, and they understood. So we got them somewhere to rent, and then we put a house on the market. Now they're gonna start June 1st, which is tonight is final walkthrough 31st on the window, and their home is under contract, closing in 2-3 weeks. So that's how I convinced them, because the math talks.
The math, I think
Right.
the
Yeah.
monthly
math speaks for
affordability
it,
and
yeah.
really sitting down and seeing like
Yeah.
where they're putting where they're placing their money. Like you might have someone who has a 3.5% interest rate that's carrying tremendous amount of unsecured debt.
Yes.
And they could be making a move and a shift,
Yeah.
taking the equity out and putting it into another opportunity that spending the same amount
Yeah.
monthly, right? Dennis, how are you overcoming that objection?
Well, I would say it's an objection on almost every listing appointment that comes up. I would say seller's number one concern right now is where am I going, right? It's the easy conversation when you supply them with the comps and say, hey, good news, this one just recently sold for this. You're probably going to exceed their expectations, hopefully, with your service and what's going to sell for, which is great. But sellers are most concerned, in my opinion, like, where am I going?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's our job to give them solutions to that question, right? So what I've seen agents do and winning on listing appointments is when they can articulate 3 to 4 different options to the seller to alleviate that risk, all day long they're committed to moving, right? So it's my job to say, okay, I totally can appreciate, obviously we know you want to sell, clearly you need to buy. We typically will say, the home should move pretty quickly in this market, totally get that. And to mitigate your risk, here's the solutions for that, right? So we go in depth on some options, and everybody's different, right? I had some clients that have amazing equity in their property, but they do truthfully need to sell to get the down payment for the next purchase. Well, maybe we could take out a HELOC, right? So long as I have an opportunity to get in front of them like 60 to 90 days before they want to do this, they can pull money out of the HELOC, use that for down payment purposes. Maybe they can apply for a bridge loan, okay? And then more commonly what we're seeing today is the use and occupancy agreements. So if you're able to alleviate the risk of where I'm going, to give them the confidence that the good news is I'm going to get you top dollar. I already have a pre-plan for you exactly how this is going to be rolled out as far as mitigating your risk of where you're going to go. It gives them security of not feeling like, okay, am I going to be moving
Kicked
into a
out
hotel?
of my house. Yeah.
So giving them the options is huge, and having the confidence behind you to support that.
Patty, what are you doing?
I would say similar to Dennis. The only other thing is I ask them where they want to be, right? So if you have a specific location or area you want to be, I'm picking up the phone, calling all day long to see if I can find you a home that you really would like to go to. And as far as the interest rates, I know they're really concerned about that. So I've kind of mindseted that a little bit differently. Like even with first-time home buyers, they're a little nervous about that large payment. So what I said to them, so instead of putting 25% down, just put 15% down. Take that 10%, put it in the bank, offset the difference in your payment until you can refi yourself out. So marry the house and date the rate. The rates are never going to be like that forever. They're going to go down. They're like, oh, I never thought about that. Like, wow. I said, yeah, you're already qualified, so it doesn't matter. So instead of putting the 25% down, put 15% down. Take 10% of that money, put it away in an account. If you're short every month, $500-600, draw from that. How long is it going to take you to use that $25,000? I bet it's going to take a long time. So let's do that. You feel secure, and then you can refi yourself out as soon as the rates drop. You're not going to stay like this forever. And I don't know anyone that, well, very rarely, probably 99.5% have kept their same mortgage forever. Yeah. Everyone else, I think, has at least refinanced once, if not twice.
It's true. It's a true option. So this is supposed to be uplifting. If you could give advice right now to the agents out there who don't have the years of experience that you guys do, what would it be in this market?
I would tell them to bring an experienced agent with them on a listing appointment. And I've been doing that with a lot of the newer agents who need help. And I actually went on a couple listing appointments, cold calls they've made, and they've gotten the appointment. We've gotten in the door. I've given their clients different options. The people have hugged me and thanked us so much, and we walk out the door and they're like, I can't believe that. Like, I thought we were going in here with, and they leave very relieved and confident that, I'm trying to help them get to their next step, right?
The next level.
Don't forget about where we all came from and where we all started from, because everybody needs help. It's just convincing them to feel comfortable enough to do it and bring somebody to walk beside them to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Joan, what would you recommend?
I think right now, if you've been in the business a few years and you're right in the midst of this, the thing is, remember the basics. Go back to the basics. Reach out to past clients, friends, family, anyone you know. I know one of the things I did during COVID, which turned out, I didn't do it for this reason, but I took food to the firehouse every 2 weeks. And those guys worked hard, and they were away from families and family and friends. And I didn't do it for that, and I'm going to just say this, you want to be uplifting. I am a fan of Chicago Fire.
Oh, I love
And
that show.
I watched Chicago
Night.
Fire.
We call it Chicago Night. There you go.
And yeah, Chicago Night.
Me too.
And
We do
I
Chicago
don't know if
Night.
you remember the episode where the woman was so happy and she brought food, and it was horrible.
The food
right?
was, yeah,
it was
they
terrible.
cook better
and they,
than that,
spit
right?
it out, and it was like horrible. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I could do that. I can literally walk to the firehouse.
Oh, that's
So, I made a lot of great contacts, and I got a few referrals, and it was interesting. But I did it because of Chicago Fire.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. You can always take something.
So you would make food for strangers. Jamie, what would you recommend?
And it
What
works.
would you recommend?
I totally agree with both Patty and Joan said, right? You have to go back to basic and go extra mile. I think a lot of agents should pay attention to their own skills, right? I mean,
that's good.
when it's a quiet time, don't just sit there, find a few body and drink and complaining. I would just learn some skill, negotiation skill, what the process can be, read more on the septic inspection, learn more knowledge, because at the end of the day, right, the client have to see a value. If you go in and said, I need to pay my bill, I need to sell your house, I need my number to be number one, where do you sign? The people that's all over your face, they can feel it.
They know
Yeah.
it.
They know
I
it.
had a broker that used to say they smell that on you.
Yes,
They do. I think
exactly.
they do. Commission breath.
If you come in, just
breath.
genuinely say, hey, how can be useful to you?
Knowledge
How can
is
I
power.
help you?
Right.
But when they talk, right, I mean, they hire you not because you're pretty, because you understand the business.
Right.
So that's very important. That doesn't cost anything. It's not like, but when I was a new agent, right? I mean, when you do the open house for the bigger agent in the office and they saw you, they talk, after 10 minutes, they realize, hey, now this woman knows something. So, that's something you have, and don't be lazy. Always put your best effort. How many agents we heard, leave the light open, leave the door open, leave everything. That's really not good. You just always have to do things your best ability. Present offer. Take a time, call the listing agent, explain your client, and write something. I know the love letter is debatable. Some people say it goes up. At least let them know my client
Do
get
a cover
married.
letter.
Yeah,
A cover letter explaining
exactly.
the offer,
You
yeah.
have to, let them know, because I won quite a few when I was a new agent, and there was a multiple offer at that time. My client got engaged, so I told them that's our home, the first step. So owner reward us for that, because agent, forward my cover letter to the owner, and be professional, present offer well. So that's how the listing agent plus the owner know you. You're different, you're newbie, yes, but how do they know you new? Nobody look up your license, say which you got it. They from your work they know. You forgot the seller disclosure and whatever you wrote wrong in the contract, whatever you did. But if you be professional, the other agent will love to work with you. So the owner would appreciate, the actual work. Let's show your own standard, your own professionalism.
Yeah.
I agree too.
Dennis.
Absolutely.
What is the one thing you would recommend to the agents that are struggling to get listings in the market right now?
So if you're pertaining to newer agents, I would say be consistent and be committed.
Yeah.
When I look back, when I first started, I was all in. At the office every day, I surrounded myself with great people. Culture was important for me. Having the support of a brokerage was influential in my business, but I was consistent. I showed up, I listened, I attended, I was committed to it. It wasn't like a one-day kind of thing for me. I knew nothing about real estate, nothing. But I knew how to engage with people and have conversations, and I would maybe learn something from Patty or whoever was in the room and pick up on that. And give it some time, right? I mean, don't have the expectations that you're gonna come into this business and all of a sudden have 20 listings. But if you can take some pieces from everybody, attend some trainings, etc., I think showing up is half the battle.
I think that's key. I think going and making it a real job and showing up to work every day is the number one step to being successful in real estate. If
That
you
is
don't
super.
do that,
I just want to ask for experienced agents who are having inventory or looking for listings, what's the one thing you would recommend to them?
Oh man, for an experienced agent right now, because we do hear this often right now, where everybody wants new listings, but actually going out and hunting to go get them, right? So it's not, I mean, I may be in a room with 20 agents and the conversation is, yeah, I definitely want more listings, I want more listings, I want more listings. And then if we sit down with them on a one-on-one and we break out what they're doing throughout the course of a day and throughout the course of a week, there may be some gaps in their business, right?
Big gaps.
Yeah, big gaps.
Like
So
days missing, chunks of time.
I think what's kind of cool though is everybody always assumes there's a secret sauce. Like, hey, what website are you on that you're getting all these leads from? Or what are you doing to get 20 listings a month, right? I mean, we had an elite mastermind panel at the office last month, and 9 out of 10 things that come from this is simple stuff, right? Like, send out your mailers to your past clients. Make sure you're touching them. Try to touch them 30 to 40 times throughout the year to be in front of them, right? I think what happens a lot, especially these that we're doing a lot of business, is when we see a little bit of a shift in the market, then that's when you really start doubling down. Like, oh my God, I totally forgot. I haven't called my past clients because you were so used to all the business coming in. Where it's like, I don't have to call Michelle this week. I have 2 other listings to go on this week. You know what I mean? So maintaining those relationships, I think, would be
Let's be consistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
consistency is the key.
Consistency
is the key.
I want to recap a couple of things.
Yeah, let's recap.
Seriously. I think that we heard today that there's still listings out there. We heard today that the client has to be the number one, as it always should be. We heard today that it's back to the basics of contacting. It's a relationship business. We're belly to belly with our clients. We heard that some of the shifts were contacting them more often, perhaps, or going back to those relationships that we missed. Definitely the basics of prospecting and hunting. Am I missing anything that we heard? We heard that you have to bring your paperwork on the first appointment.
Yes.
I think that's a really big deal.
Yes.
This isn't a market where you get the opportunity potentially to go back for a second time.
Absolutely.
And I think something else that was mentioned is that there's always a way to work with other people. So even if your clients have other family members or friends, make it as easy as possible so that everyone has a piece of that opportunity. And that kind of helps close the gap as well. Am I missing anything that we talked about?
I think a lot of agents are watching the news too much and they're hearing too much going on and they're letting it get in their head. If they go back to the basics and what they learned no matter when they got their license and just be consistent, it's going to come. And they have to believe in themselves. They've done it before and they can do it again.
So I would say consistency is the work of the day. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michelle.
For joining us today. We love it. Jane Mueller, Dennis Freshnock, Patricia Brady, Joan George. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Good seeing you.